Is the Championship getting worse? It's been something that's been on my mind for the last few months, and I thought I'd make a video on it today. This one's really sprung up in my mind lately because I'm not talking about the competitiveness of the league. You know, at the end of the day, there's only 4 points currently separating 15th from 5th in the table. It's as, you know, jam-packed as ever in that middle part of the table. I'm not talking about the sort of drama of the Championship or anything like that, but more so the actual quality on the pitch. I do feel has taken a substantial dip over these last couple of seasons, and in today's video we're going to have a look behind the scenes, a couple of reasons as to why that might be the case, or if it is the case at all. I welcome your guys' thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Do you think there's been a notable dip in the overall quality of the Championship in terms of the 90 minutes we as fans see each week? Has that quality dramatically decreased? And before we get into this one, by no means do I want to discredit or take anything away from the teams that have been outstanding in the Championship so far this season. You know, Burnley have been absolutely brilliant so far, as have Sheffield United, and this would be a sort of easy stick to beat the teams who are running away with it this season. As you know, I said, you know, a crap league this year anyway, you know, it doesn't really matter, but not taking anything away from them, I think those two sides especially would have been good in any other era of the Championship that we will discuss in today's video. For the sake of today's video, we're going to be drawing some comparisons to the 2018/19 season, as I believe that to be the season in most recent memory where the standard of the Championship was probably at its highest, particularly in the top half of the table. That season, for example, we had Daniel Farke's Norwich side, who were a fantastic watch, Chris Wilder's Sheffield United, Bielsa's Leeds, West Brom, who had Harvey Barnes, Dwight Gale, Jay Rodriguez up front, Aston Villa, who were fantastically strong under Dean Smith, Derby County under Frank Lampard, and the rest of the likes of Middlesbrough, Bristol City, Forest, Swansea, Brentford, Sheffield Wednesday, Preston and Blackburn, who also had really strong squads that year. So for the sake of today's video, we're going to be drawing some comparisons between this season in the Champ and that one right there and see just how much has changed. So I think the most obvious conclusion to draw from straight away is that the money being spent by Championship clubs has dramatically decreased over the last few years, especially since the COVID pandemic, by which point I think we've seen plenty of clubs reining it in terms of being a little bit more sensible with their finances. We've also got several Championship clubs who have been tiptoeing around financial fair play over these last couple of years, which has also impacted these spending figures. But what I thought was really telling is if we go back to the most recent summer transfer window, there were 10 clubs in the Championship who spent less than £1 million on their overall summer recruitment, so transfer fees and everything like that. 10 Championship clubs spent less than £1 million on recruitment in the summer. If we compare that to the 2018/19 season, only 4 Championship clubs that year spent less than £1 million, and several of them spent substantially more than the sort of figures that we've seen being banded around this season. Of those 4 clubs who spent less than £1 million in the 18/19 season, 2 of them were ultimately relegated, those clubs being Bolton and Rotherham. And that goes to show right there that you know, back in 2018/19, it by no means was just the big clubs who were spending money. All throughout the Championship, teams were spending money, investing into their playing squads, and I think as a result of that, we saw a much higher standard on the pitch each week. And I think that shows that even back then, Championship clubs who were in and around the bottom of the table knew they couldn't get away with not spending any money. They had to go ahead and invest into their squads, or they would run the risk of relegation, whereby now, I think because the levels have dipped off, that's no longer such the fear with those clubs, because there has been this overall reduction in spending by pretty much the entire league, bar a few clubs. You know, going off the most recent summer transfer window, we've got pretty much half of the Championship who have spent less than £1 million. And I think with that substantial reduction in investment in players, that's obviously going to affect the quality on the pitch. Another factor that I've sort of come to is the fact that loan fees are becoming more and more common, and I think this has had quite a severe knock-on effect for those Championship clubs in the bottom half of the table. If we go back on years gone by, before loan fees were really a thing, and I'm not saying they've just come in, you know, they have been around for a long time, but even newly promoted clubs up to the Championship were able to go ahead and secure a deal for an upcoming Premier League star who completely turned around their season. I mean, even in recent recent seasons. You know, we saw Tammy Abraham at Bristol City, we saw Reece James at Wigan, and we've got loads of other examples of teams who were around the bottom half of the table with massive superstars in their teams from Premier League clubs. Nowadays, that's no longer as commonplace as a result of Premier League clubs wanting massive loan fees for their players. You know, I remember it being a massive story back in January last time, you know, the amount of money that Middlesbrough were supposedly paying to get Florian Balogun on loan for the season. And right now that is pretty common practice with Premier League clubs loaning out their, you know, most valuable youngsters. They are looking to secure those deals from Championship clubs, and right now teams in and around mid-table just can't afford those massive loan fees. Along with the general decrease in the funds which are going into the playing squad, I'd also suggest there's been a general fall off in the level of coaching, certainly in terms of the managerial names that we've got in the Championship, but also the time that each of those managers are given to go ahead and implement their ideas. If we go back to that 18/19 season, for example, we had names in the Championship managing such as Thomas Frank, Frank Lampard, Marcelo Bielsa, Tony Pulis, Daniel Farke, Nathan Jones, Graham Potter, just so many fantastic managers who have gone on to do great things. And in the Championship right now, it doesn't quite feel like there is that same level of coaching, and perhaps that's a result of a lot of the Championship clubs being quite trigger happy at the moment. For example, Paul Ince at Reading is the 7th longest serving manager in the Championship, and he's been in the job barely over 7 months, which is absolutely crazy, and it sort of speaks to how much of a short-term basis pretty much every Championship club, apart from a select few, are playing on at the moment. And with that, perhaps you do get that reduction in quality. Another factor to take into consideration is the Preston Factor, and that's for me personally, and it will be the same with you guys watching your club week in, week out. You get that general impression, especially when I compare this Preston team right now to North End sides in years gone by. Now, I'd like to say I've got a pretty good idea about, you know, what mid-table looks like in the Championship, because I've been a Preston fan and we've been mid-table mediocrity for God knows how long. But just comparing the Preston squad now to the squad we had in 18/19, man for man, I think that 18-19 team is far superior to, you know, pretty much every position we've got on the pitch at the moment, bar a few. But despite that, we're actually 8 points better off on match day 26 than we were in the 18-19 season, despite, for me, us having a far superior squad back then. And I don't think that's the case of Preston having improved. I think we've actually regressed a little bit from that stage in terms of the quality on our squad, but I think the rest of the Championship has regressed along with us. And I think a lot of fans who support teams in the middling part of the Championship at the moment will probably feel the same. A lot of fans thinking, we're not actually that good, and yet we're only a stone's throw away from the top 6 at the moment. It makes it great for drama, but in terms of actual quality, I just don't think it's quite there with the Championship this season. And to be fair, I do think this has been a reoccurring theme, and it has started to sort of gradually snowball over these last couple of years. We've had the quality slowly starting to dip year upon year, and maybe it's a case where that will just, you know, go ahead and slingshot back up in no time, but I thought it was an interesting observation nonetheless. I think the most obvious example to point to right now is the lack of an automatic promotion race that we've got going on in the Championship right now. The fact that Burnley and Sheffield United are so far clear of everyone else right now after 26 game weeks. You know, Burnley are 14 points clear of Blackburn, who are in 3rd right now, and we're only in game week 26, which is ridiculous. I think, yes, of course it speaks to the strength of Burnley and how good they've been this season and how consistent they've been, but I also think it speaks to the quality of the rest of the Championship for everyone past Sheffield United, really, that no one's up there and capable of challenging them. That will wrap it up for today's video though, guys, and I am very interested to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with my statement from the start that the Championship has fallen off in terms of the overall quality? Yes, the drama's there, and that's what we all love the Championship for. It's ridiculously tight in the middle of the table at the moment and for that top 6 hunt. But in terms of watching a Championship match, the quality that's on show on the pitch right now compared to a few years ago, is it quite what it once was? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to get your guys' feedback on this one down below. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and also stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.